All right. I think we're ready to get started. Good morning, everybody. And I want to welcome you to the Arizona Registrar of Contractors' second annual Construction Science Technology Apprenticeship Fair. My name is Martín Quezada, and I'm proud to serve Governor Katie Hobbs' administration as the Director of the Registrar of Contractors. Our agency is really excited to be here for this event, partnering with the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're here to connect high school and college students, members of our military, and veterans who are considering careers in the construction science and technology professions with companies that are actively recruiting for available apprenticeship positions or entry-level job openings with training programs. So I want to take a moment and just say thank you to our partners that we could not have done this without. So let's recognize first the Arizona Diamondbacks, in particular Joanna. I don't know if she's in here. Joanna's not here, but I did want to recognize Joanna because she handled all of the logistics for putting this together, and it's a lot to put this together. So I do want to thank Joanna for doing that. I want to also thank Ms. Cindy Gutierrez with the Arizona Department of Education. We're going to hear more from her later. She helped get the word out about this event to educators all over the state. The Arizona Department of Veteran Services and my good friend, Director Almond, and her assistant deputy director, Nicole Baker. I know you guys both helped get the word out to our veterans community, so thank you so much, Director, for doing that. Arizona at Work's Willie Higgins, we're going to hear more from him later as well. And Mr. Paul Sanders from the Phoenix Chamber Foundation's Build Your Future Arizona. Is Paul in here? He's out there right now. Well, he helped connect us with investors that provide apprenticeship programs for our students here today. And last but certainly not least, I do want to recognize Mr. John Owens. He is the Regulatory Affairs Policy Advisor who's here on behalf of Governor Hobbs' office. So thank you, John, for being here with us. As you guys came in, I'm sure you saw just a great event taking place out there. We had over 915 registered attendees here to connect with over 40 companies. And to top it off, after this, we're excited to see our Arizona Diamondbacks play this afternoon. I know they're right around first place, maybe not at first place, but they're close, right? Maybe they can capture that today. But before we get out to that game, we've got a great conversation that we're going to have here with you just for a little while. And first, I'm going to recognize Mr. David Martin, who is the president of the Arizona chapter of the Associated General Contractors of America. And Mr. Martin's going to come up and give us a brief overview of the state of the construction industry in Arizona. And after that, we're going to have a panel discussion to talk about filling the gap in the construction workforce shortage that we are experiencing in our state today. So I'm looking forward to that. But first, let's recognize Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Martín. My last name is Martín. He's my tocayo. So I'm David Martin. I'm the president of the Arizona Chapter of Associated General Contractors, and I'm extraordinarily grateful for you all to be here today. And I always talk about us as unsung heroes, folks in our industry. And why do I say that? Because without you, without the people building roads, without the folks building airports, without the folks building homes, without the folks building the infrastructure, right? We don't get grandma to Thanksgiving dinner unless we have a road, right? We don't get the first responders to the houses where people are having trouble, right? We don't get the fire engines to the house that's on fire or the building that's on fire or whatever. And I just want you to recognize how incredibly important of a role that you play as members of the construction industry. So give yourselves a hand. So just as a little bit of background, I've served on the P20 Council under Janet Napolitano. I've been on the Workforce Arizona Council for some time. I serve as a trustee for the Arizona Chapter Associated General Contractors Apprenticeship Trust. I serve as a trustee on the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 428 Trust. AGC is a double-breasted organization. We're both union and non-union, so we're very accepting of anything that makes the ships rise. Let me frame this for you really quickly. I had a little bit of trouble trying to figure this out, but just bear with me for a second, okay? I have this button right here because that was peak construction jobs in 2006. Okay, so keep this in mind. This is an important number, okay? In 2006, there were 244,000 members of our industry that were employed. Today, that number is 196,000. Okay, so there's a delta, just that alone, there's a delta of 48,000. Okay, let's talk about something that I tried to correlate it to because it was hard. I'm looking at Willie because Willie and I go back and forth on numbers. We're sort of numbers freaks, right? In 2006, the Arizona GDP was 245 billion. 245 billion. Okay. In 2002, the GDP was 458 billion. So that's an 87. That's a $213 billion increase in GDP, right? The increase alone was 87% of the 2006 number, just the increase alone. So let's assume that you have 244,000 peak construction in 2006. You multiply that by the 87% increase that occurred over GDP, and we should be at 212,000 construction jobs. And we're at 220. You add that to 212,000 construction jobs to 244, and you're looking at 456,000 construction jobs short. Okay? If you look at it from a linear standpoint, okay? Current construction employment is 196, so we have a shortage, somewhere between 48,000 and 260,000. Hence the pressures that are on us, right? We know this. I'm speaking to the choir here. Everything goes through construction. It doesn't matter. Hospitals, fire stations, police stations, data centers, TSMC, Intel, Lucid, I can go on, right? Everything goes through the industry, this industry. So I struggled with what I was going to talk about today, and I said, let's just talk about the journey that we've been on at AGC. It's an evolution, right? We started this journey at AGC. I started in 1997 at AGC. We started the apprenticeship journey in 2004. We created one of the country's first non-union apprenticeship and mechanic program. And that was made possible because Governor Symington opened up the program considerably when he was the governor. Willie and I talked about this before. One of the obstacles in participating with a consortium of folks creating an apprenticeship program was the fear that participating contractors would poach workers from the other. We had an agreement that we would not, and we wouldn't take any of the folks because we agreed that it didn't matter. So why didn't it matter? Our premise was really simple. A rising tide raises all ships. These skilled workers will be instructed by our competition, and at the end of the day, it's going to be a wash. Let me explain this to you. For every person that you've trained, you probably have a person or two that was trained by someone else, right? So our philosophy is, while contractor A may train worker A and contractor B may train worker B, worker B may get tired of contractor B, worker A may get tired of contractor A, and they'll switch, and it's a wash. So that's the way we looked at it. We said it doesn't matter, it's all a wash. So our philosophy was we're going to raise the entire industry. It didn't matter. And now, just to let you know, there's a qualification on that. We can't stop people from wanting to move around. That's not our job. If folks want to go from point A to point B and move around for their quality of life, we can't get in the way of that. That's their prerogative. In 2007, 2008, what happens? Bottom falls off, right? Remember that? Well, workforce is off the table. We have a new focus that's creating an additional market now. There's, plenty of construction workers. We survey our membership and they say, we need more work, we need more work. Well, fast forward to 6 years ago and guess what? We survey our members every year. Workforce is slowly creeping up in our surveys with the membership. So AZAGC says, hey, we need to do something about this. And we hire Corey Foster, who is back there. He's our Director of Workforce Development. And now the fierce competition with ourselves and other organizations. Remember what I said? I said people feared other people poaching folks, people wanting to get other folks. Well, that competition exists among organizations too. I fall back to my competitive mode of operation. A couple weeks ago, I tell Corey, look what these other organizations are doing. And he pulls me right back down to where I belong. This is what he writes me, okay? I say, hey, look, this organization is doing this. We got to get on it more. Those are my words. This is the exact thing this is verbatim what he sent me back. This is a text. Quote, frankly, there are no metrics we can use to compare us to any trade organization. Contractors and affiliates join organizations for several reasons. When I see a post of 30 or whatever number in the room, I remind myself that there are thousands of construction workers in this state and hundreds of state, county, city, tribal construction workers. No one organization can serve them all. So any organization providing training are contributors to advancing the industry. Thank you for bringing me back down to earth, Corey. That's a fact. So we came full circle, right? My response to him after putting his boss in place was, you're right, Corey. We have a collective responsibility to advance our industry. You can do that by creating your own program, like we did. You can get involved in Workforce Arizona Council. You can get involved in local councils. If you're not aware of this, if you're from out of this county, you can get involved in those local councils and you can drive the agenda for those local councils for construction. You can become a trainer. You can be a part of our industry. There's a myriad ways to help our industry grow. Our workforce, no matter what, it starts with you. Thank you very much for having me today. Looking forward to the Diamondbacks. Go D-backs! Go Suns! And go Sunbacks!
All right, thank you, Mr. Martin. I appreciate that. I know one thing that kind of stood out to me was you said we have a collective responsibility to advance this industry, and I couldn't agree more. And I think that we all have that role in one way or another because the success of our state depends on that. And so thank you for putting that out there. And now I think we're going to have a good conversation. I'm going to invite my panelists to come on up. First, I'm going to invite Mr. Ricardo Carlo of the Associated Minority Contractors of Arizona, Ms. Cindy Gutierrez, the Director of CTE Program Services for the Arizona Department of Education, and Mr. Willie Higgins, the State Apprenticeship Program Lead for the Arizona Apprenticeship Office of the Arizona Department of Economic Security. And we are going to talk a little bit today about filling that gap that Mr. Martin was mentioning in the construction industry. So, I'm going to come around here a little bit. So, you guys are moderating. Right. All right, I'll sit down. How about that? All right, so first, just so that everyone has an opportunity to get to know who each of you are and know a little bit about your organizations, please introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about your organization and how the organization contributes to the construction workforce development. We'll start with Ms. Gutierrez.
Good morning. So I'm Cindy Gutierrez. I serve as a director in the Arizona Department of Education Career and Technical Education Unit. It's a mouthful. The acronym is AZAGC. I've been in that role for about 7 years. I have a great staff of program specialists that oversee all the CTE programs statewide, including all the construction-related programs. We provide funding to high school and community college CTE programs. At the high school level, we provide through federal and state tax dollars, so CTEDs, if you're familiar with that, Career and Technical Education Districts. For the programs like construction technology, carpentry, drafting, welding, HVAC, and many more, as well as non-construction related programs. These high school programs are based on state industry standards, so that's where you come in to help us tell us what we need to teach our students in high school. The current enrollment of construction and related programs statewide is over 27,000 students. That's just construction related. So our construction tech, carpentry, cabinet making, engineering, welding, HVAC, plumbing, we have all those programs at the high school level. With that, students this past year have earned over 4,000 industry credentials. The highest attained credential is the OSHA 10 certification, so they all have their OSHA 10 card. I believe for employees or employers, that's a huge benefit. When you're looking at entry-level employees, they already have that credential. So CTE is preparing your future workforce.
All right, thank you so much. Willie.
Thank you. Good morning. Is this working? My voice carrying?
Here we go.
I usually tell people to set a stone onto your chair, so I don't need it this time. Anyway, my name is Willie Higgins. I'm the Apprenticeship Director for the state of Arizona. I have been for just 10 years last week.
Wow.
Celebrated my anniversary. And in those 10 years, we've done a really great thing. We've doubled the amount of everything in the programs. We've doubled the amount of programs. We've doubled the amount, more than doubled the amount of apprentices. We're at 5,700 apprentices right at today, 5,706 this morning, 241 programs this morning. We're at 11.17, it's very critical, 0.7 of female participation in apprenticeships. We're a little bit short on veterans because we're dropping out, they're graduating, so we're at about 5.8% veterans. We're around about, I want to say, we're 4,200 apprentices in the construction industry. Right? That may not sound significant to you, but when I took over this program back in 2013, it was really bad. You know, we had about 90 programs and I had to purge a bunch of those that were out of date. We got them all the way back down. But in 2017, I put together a little thing for my director going over to the governor's office. And the highlight of it was a 2-minute elevator thing for him to talk to the governor. We had 2,419 apprentices. We had 129 programs. 93% of all of the apprentices were in the construction industry, which is not bad, right? Because that's why we're here today. But we had 4% female participation, 4% veteran participation. Now, 4% female participation of 2,419 is not like 11% or 11.17% of 5,700, right? So we're very proud of what we've done. And we put together a little bit, depending on what you were talking to, that last year in June, 68% of all of our apprentices were in the construction industry. And everybody thought, well, you dropped from 93% to 68%. But the 68% of the total at that time was 3,300, which was 1,000 more than we had back in 2017 in construction. So we're not losing anybody in the construction industry. Our programs are going crazy. So since June of 30th of last year, we had 4,500 apprentices, which was a huge milestone for us in the apprenticeship office. Last Monday, we hit 5,700. We were at 5,400 about at the start of April. We're at 5,700 right now. So up until today, in the month of April, we've added 432 apprentices in 3 weeks. So that's how crazy the thing's going. Most of them are in construction, but not all of them. And we're particularly proud of the diversity of the programs we're doing. You know, we've broken into 13 different industries now, where we only were in 5 industries back in 17. So it's for everyone, and we're particularly proud of our partnerships with all of our programs downstairs. And the ones that aren't apprenticeship programs will soon be apprenticeship programs if they want to grow their skilled workforce. So I want to hand it over to Martin.
Yes, Mr. Carlo.
That's it.
I don't even know how I keep up with these two right here. Well, my name is Ricardo Carlo. I'm the president of the Associated Minority Contractors of Arizona. The organization's been around for our 24 years right now. Our main mission has always been the advocacy and support of all the minority, women, small, veteran, and disadvantaged business and enterprise contractors. So like what Dave Martin does with his companies, we do the same thing. Provide the education, provide the training, basically giving the small business the tools they need to be successful. Sometimes small businesses have troubles walking through that front door of large corporations. We facilitate that as well. Trying to build that relationship so they're able to learn and grow their companies, and have always been, I'm gonna tell you right now, have always been a vital part of every major project in the state of Arizona. So our members, I can honestly attest with the AMCA, have helped build every major project in this state. So again, this is who we are and this is who we represent, but I have my community partners like Dave and also Cindy and Willie. We all work together. I mean, no one organization can do it by themselves. I definitely can, okay? But the whole thing is between all of us, like Dave says, all ships will rise. So thank you.
Yes, thank you each for being here with us today. We really appreciate it. So all of the great work that you talked about that each of your organizations do, and with Mr. Martin's organization as well, doing great work. We're increasing those numbers. Yet, despite all of that, according to the Associated General Contractors of America, labor availability is reported as the #1 challenge for many contractors. Statistics show that for every 4 people that are leaving the industry, only 1 enters. And there are some startling predictions that as many as 1.9 million craft professionals will be needed by 2025. So understanding that there are many factors contributing to the shortage of a skilled workforce in this industry, from your perspectives, what are 1 or 2 of the main issues that are driving this problem? So in other words, how did we get here? And I'll let whoever wants to jump in, jump in.
Well, we can take some responsibility for that by being really diverse in these programs, but at the same time, all of these jobs, you know, thinking back to when I first was working here, I worked on this for my company, on this bank one, so your accommodations was brought by us today.
So, actually, that corner on 7th Street there, I built that all the way. You know. Anyway, but in 1998, thinking back, that's when everybody had their first flip. That's when I got my first flip phone. It was a little Motorola with the aerial, you know. I remember talking to a guy in Montana. It was fly fishing in the river, and I'm going, oh my God, this is going to cost me $10 a minute.
Right.
To where we are now, and the industries that have evolved since the concept of the personal computer, the PC from 1986, all those jobs didn't exist. They're all now in existence and thriving and demanding big money, and the people are leaving to go to those jobs. Our schools are catering them because that's in demand. So now, instead of having like 25 industries or 15 industries back in the day, now we've got a whole lot more to cater to. And the graduates, so we did a little survey back in the day of the graduates graduating high school. There was 100, out of 100 graduates from high school, 7 of them were destined for the construction industry, and the rest went wherever they were going, you know, in the military or college, whatever it was. And that number has dropped to 5. So we're still 5 going in the construction industry, but at the same time, David said it, all of those industries need buildings they operate from. They all need all of the underground fiber optics, and all of those industries are all going to be thriving. So there's no easy button for it all, unfortunately, and the salaries and how we make it lucrative for them is the only thing that's going to bring it to. We just have to keep telling them this is not your grandpa's back in the day, but really it is, because the construction industry rarely changes. It's just the way stuff get brought to the job sites. You know, the skills are there, and it's just a matter of us trying to keep promoting it.
Cindy?
Okay, so from my experience, kind of as an educator, I taught construction technology in the high schools for 13 years, and it was trying to connect with industry. So I think there's still a gap between high school students graduating from high school and connecting to that industry. If the teacher doesn't have that connection for them, then they're kind of lost. But that is rapidly changing. Events like today, bringing those high school students in, making that personal connection with the industry people, that's helping a lot. But I see this as needing to be a sustainable effort. We've seen when industry goes down, they're not interested in our students, they don't have room for employees, but we need to sustain those practices so when everything starts going up, you have those students coming to you through that pipeline. So, we have collectively, I see a lot of people in this room that have been working on bridging that gap. Arizona Masonry Council, Ryan back there, goes across the state. Any school that requests for them to come out and do training, he's there. He's one of our really good partners to provide that training to the students in the classroom, helping that teacher to provide those necessary knowledge and skills. One example, there's many out here. I look at all these faces and you are all doing this some way, making those connections.
Thank you. Ricardo, did you want to add something as well?
Yeah, I mean, we have to look back. We knew years back that we're gonna have a shortage in industry, and how were we gonna be able to produce more to come on out. The bottom fell out of the industry. Of course, people went to look for jobs elsewhere because they couldn't do any work. And unfortunately, that's cyclical, and it happens every 10 years. So that was, I think, one of the major parts, and then now you're talking about trying to get them back. That's the hard part of it, and it's gotta be, more affordable for them. If not, they're sitting in air-conditioned offices, making just as much money or more, and don't have to get out there in the heat. So those are some of the issues. My biggest thing is they took the CETE programs out of the high schools, where kids would know if they wanted to learn a little bit of auto hobby, they wanted to learn a little bit about construction and building birdhouses or whatever it may be, but they had a hands-on and some type of a skill that they knew that they can do in case things didn't work out for them in the future. And since then, we've had a lot of other programs that have come in, like EVIT for one, WestMec, and all the other high schools that are out there. So, I mean, we're slowly getting back, but I think the biggest issue is changing the mindsets of the parents. Because all the parents, they want to have their kids to become lawyers and doctors. And we all know the fact that they're not gonna, a lot of them aren't gonna be lawyers and doctors, but they have to find a way to make a living for themselves, and also if they have a family, make a living for their family.
So let's talk demographics a little bit. So obviously today, we had 915 people out here speaking with our 40 vendors or our 40 companies. Most of them were young, right? And that's good because nearly 1 in 4 construction workers right now is older than the age of 55. And those increasing retirement rates of our most skilled workers is another huge concern. So what do you think are some of the barriers or misconceptions that may prevent young people from choosing careers in construction? And how do we move away from that perception that it's an either or choice between doctor, lawyer, or a trade? Who wants to address that one first? How about Cindy? We'll start with Cindy.
So like Ricardo mentioned, it might be the misconception of parents. Parents want better for their students, better than what they had. It could be that they feel skilled labor have limited salary, limited opportunities for growth. But we know better than that. There's many opportunities out there. Specifically CTE, it's not an either or. It's many different pathways, many entrance and exit points for whatever career path that student is focused on. So they could start out in industry, see that they want to work and go to school to maybe get a higher ed degree, move up in the company, go into apprenticeships, which is work and education. So again, it's not an either or, it's the career choice of that student, and letting them know and understand that there's many ways to go as they reach their career goals.
I think the other aspect too, along with Cindy, is that when you mention the word construction, right away, everybody thinks they're digging ditches. And in some cases it is that, but not, it's turned into construction science, because not only do we have, you need to know math, you need to know geometry, you need to know all that stuff, especially when you're pouring a yard of concrete. And also chemistry, you gotta know what additives and stuff need to go there. But the fact is that we've gone into the technology and AI phase. And so that's something that kids are missing out, and letting them know that here's an opportunity where you can make a living. You won't have to dig a ditch, but we need you in our infrastructure as well. We need AI people. We need people to be able to build data banks and everything else, and also put plans together on how to improve your business and how to make it grow and be better and stuff. The technology, my God, 3D printing. They're starting to build houses with 3D printing. I mean, and a lot of people are saying, well, this is displacing somebody out of position. Well, no, it's not. They got to train somebody to operate that piece of equipment as well. But, the whole thing is looking at the environment that's out there, especially when I go talk to schools and stuff like that, is that here's an opportunity for you to make a living, a good living for yourself, and if you have a family, and guess what? Within 3 to 4 years, you're making just as much as somebody who has a 4-year degree or more. And the whole thing is, I feel bad because teachers should be paid more. I have a daughter who's a teacher, and I support her in everything that she does, but they're the ones who are teaching our future professionals and stuff like that, and they're not giving the credit that's out there. But at the same time, guess what? You don't have to pay back those student loans. And the caveat on top of that is that if, a lot of these companies provide tuition reimbursement. So if you decide to go back to school, they're gonna pay up to 80% of your tuition most of the time. So it's a win-win situation. So it doesn't mean that you have to give up on education, but here's a track to get you to the point where you want to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. In the academic fields, we hear people saying, not everybody's cut out for college, you should try an apprenticeship. And I like to just enlighten people, you just don't take on an apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is like, if you had $65,000 right now, you could go down and sign up with U of A or ASU or GCU or any of our universities in Arizona. But could you take that same $65,000 and go over to Fordham or Harvard? I doubt it. You won't get in. Apprenticeship's the same way. You have to apply. You have to get to the top of the ladder. I'll tell you why. Our apprenticeship programs are not really hurting for applicants. They may be hurting for skilled people, but they're not hurting for applicants. An instance, a couple of our programs are the longevity programs are the longest ones, I should say. They're posting 60 positions, and they post it on a Wednesday night, just for instance. They post it on Wednesday night, and they'll have 800 applicants by Friday at 5. Now, what am I going to do with the other 740 that didn't make it into the program, right? Same thing with any of the other programs. They'll take 600 applicants over 3 days. Those people are dedicated to getting into the construction industry in some form or other, and we need to do a better job at making more programs. Now, there's room. We've got our colleagues here, I'm not calling you out or anything, but our Wall and Ceiling Association doesn't have a training program in place at the minute. We're working on it. We've got the Tiling Association of Arizona, doesn't have a training program in place. We've got tons of stuff going on. The painters, they've only got one program going and operating for everyone. So we've got lots of room for growth. And we need them programs to go to Cindy and work with the CTE so that the kids have the opportunity of graduating from there. Now, I'll just add on to that a little bit. We have created pre-apprenticeship programs. Cindy and I are self-proclaimed co-presidents of the Arizona Pre-Apprenticeship Program. It's a title I like to just put on my fridge, But we created programs. We helped AMCA, the masonry contractors, get their program endorsed through Westmac. We helped the AZAGC, independent electrical contractors, get their curriculum approved, which was awesome because everybody loves to use NCCR as a convenience. But we got the AZAGC curriculum approved there. We have Palo Verde Nuclear Generating Station. Everybody heard of there, right? That's our blue ribbon program right there. Apprentices are graduating after 4 years with an associate's degree, which is built into the program. So you can't graduate without getting the associates. And in their 3rd year, they're making 6 figures. So you want to get in there and you're good to go. But the point is, in the construction industry, for parents, if you're looking for academic background, you can go through a 4-year program in Arizona. I can mention a few of them, like AWACA, IACA, IBEW. And you can go, after you complete that 4-year program, you can go to Maricopa Community Colleges, and they will recognize that you went through a 4-year program, and you can get almost 45 credits attached with them. You have to pay for them, obviously, but if you want the academic background in it, we encourage people to do that, because when you get a little bit older in the tooth and you want to get out of the field, you can get into the project management area, estimating, and all those project, those top jobs that you want in the office and the cool, because you've earned it. So that's what we're aiming for. We have our team there, Joanne and Robert, that do a great job helping to grow apprenticeships across the state. So that's what we're aiming, we just work with everybody, trying to make it happen.
Thank you, Willie. So, when I was out there this morning interacting with all those students, one, it was great to see so many young people, right? But the other thing, and this is due to the demographic of our student population in Arizona, a lot of kids of color, a lot of females out there, right? And that's great because, for a long time, we know that students aren't necessarily choosing construction right now, right? We've just talked about that a little bit. But there's an argument also that construction isn't choosing female students or students of color. There's certainly an argument for that. And if you look at the statistics nationwide, it is estimated that the industry is 85.9% male and 87.3% white. Now, here in Arizona, that demographic may be a little bit better because of our demographics here, but we're still not where we should be in terms of representation in that sense. So, while Arizona may have slightly better numbers due to our demographics, this underrepresentation is still a problem. Can you talk about any advancements that you've seen within the organizations that you serve that are successfully working to attract underrepresented groups to the industry? And are there any success stories that you guys would like to share? And I'll start with Ricardo first.
That's who we represent, and we've always represented. So we've always been there to help and assist where we can. It's about opening up those doors of opportunity, and we've always pushed hard to open those doors. And I mean, there was years when some of our associations were at odds with each other because of certain things, but we're working together now. Throughout the years, we have built that relationship and built that bond to work together and make things better. There's a big push for DEI. A lot of large companies are, committing to having representatives to handle the small businesses, inclusion with the diversity, equity, and inclusion portion of it. So that has come naturally, and it's gotten to the point where the opportunities are there for these underserved constructors that are out there. They're opening up those doors, and they're making sure that whether they have a public or a private project, they provide those opportunities and sometimes exceed what people would think were good goals and stuff like that. But the opportunity is there, all of us working together as always, just opening up those horizons, because we have a lot of professionals that have really been successful. I mean, take Dan Puente, for instance, with DP Electric. I mean, he started out of his garage, and now he's got a building, and he's got over 300 plus employees, and is competing with the large contractors now. I mean, those are the success stories that are out there. Marie Hoover, with MRI Construction, she went ahead and built her company back in the neighborhood where she grew up with in South Phoenix, and brought direct economic injection into that community, at the same time provided opportunities for people to work for her and everything else, and does a lot of federal and government work, but she's bonded at $50 million. Lorraine Bergman, Caliente Construction. Just look around at all these women-owned companies. I can go on and go on about all these companies that are success stories that are diverse. And little by little, we're seeing all of that happen within our industry. And not only are they being able to participate, but they have become the competition for a lot of these large corporations.
Yeah, one of the things that we've identified is all the way through we can get regular access to the data, but we work with the Fresh Start Women's Foundation. But it's all about education. We've got a population out there of people with disabilities that we need to cater to as well. There's lots of room for everyone at the table here, and it's all about educating people and informing them of what's available and what's not, right? DEI, we need to be careful, because we still operate under affirmative action here in Arizona, right? We're working under that. DEI, we don't have the data, the census data, to back up our population in the last 5 years, because we've grown like over 1 million people in the last 5 years in Arizona, and we don't know where that population comes from or what their demographic is. So when people are talking about across, I hear from my colleagues in the national forum. I have one that actually is a director for the EIA for JFF, Joshua Johnson, and he presented to our workforce council and everything else on this. We just can't readily just say, oh, your program, oh, it's 85% white, you need to do a better job. Well, we don't know where those people are, so what we do for our programs, this is what we do, alleviate the stress, we do their outreach for them. In Arizona at Work, we make sure that their flyers go to Arizona at Work. They go to the community-based organizations. And all of those minority groups that we deal with on a daily basis or have colleagues that do deal, we take that onus off the employers and help them with their outreach. And you can't reach someone who's not registered to go on the list, or is not registered with any. So if they don't, you can't force people to apply is what I'm saying, you know. And those jobs may not be what they want, so they're not applying, and they're trying to punish the programs for not having a diverse enough group. So we understand that we make a concerted effort to double down on those populations to try and encourage them to get into it. But you know, it takes a village. We all need to do a better job, obviously. And I'll tell you this though, when we're talking about education, we get calls frequently to our office from girls, women, females, whatever you want to say. Do you have any apprenticeships for women? Because they're all geared towards men. That needs to change, and that needs to change at the school level, because the apprenticeship is for everybody. We actually got chastised from the Department of Labor one time and said, hey, you made some ages of some of the apprentices you have are wrong. You know, you've got someone in there who's 79. I said, no. We have an 80-year-old in that same program. 79 and 80-year-old apprentices. So not joking. But I was in a CNA program, however, not construction. But anyway, it's open to everybody 16 and above, 18 in the construction industry for the most part. Education and talking about it a lot is going to help us. But everybody be informed that Arizona at Work is your friend. That's your tax dollars at work. Utilize them. We've got business service reps, you've got local veteran employment reps and disabled veteran outreach program to help you get people. We have a re-entry program that's outstanding. We've got the work opportunity tax credit for people that qualify for that. So lots of good stuff. We encourage some veterans growth, so our veterans directors right here now. Veterans can access their apprenticeship, or GI Bill in an apprenticeship program, which is wonderful. And then we just have the Perkins thing. So educating people of what's available, educating parents, and that's going to encourage them to join the apprenticeship program and get that academic background in there. That was a bit long-winded answer, right? I covered about 5 topics there in one go.
But I do want to hear from Cindy on this one as well. Cindy, did you have something? Okay. Well,
So
they covered
we work closely with Willie in the apprenticeship program. We have this pre-apprenticeship set up at a lot of the high school level. You know, so we are moving forward. Our Perkins 5 reauthorization comes up next year. So we'll just, you know, we're continuing to move forward with serving all students of Arizona through CTE.
All right, yeah, let's turn off our mic if we're not speaking, all right? So when it comes to affecting real change in what we do, I do know that sometimes there are institutional obstacles that can limit or prevent options to meaningfully solve some of these problems. Are there any systemic barriers in your organizations or in society at large that you recognize that limit our success in addressing the construction workforce shortage? Cindy, I'll let Cindy start.
Okay, thanks. So basically, we're trying to work with industry and, you know, trying to make that connection between education and industry. What we really need is boots on the ground. We need you to be out there in the programs. Some of this involvement, it's not necessarily, you know, having to be there every day or provide training every day, but being on advisory councils. Each CT program is required by Federal Perkins to have advisory councils to business and industry people to tell us what directions we need to go with those high school programs. Outreach, you know, some of you in here are doing that fabulous, you know, you do a great job outreach, being out there. Ricardo mentioned Dan Puente, VP Electric. He's giving back to his community now. He started a pre-apprenticeship program at the high school that he graduated from. It's been going strong for about 2 years now, since the ABA conference a couple years ago. Get involved at your local level. You know, if you need the contacts, you know, let us know. We'll put you in contact with, you know, where those programs are at. But it's being that sustainable, boots on the ground effort to connect education with you.
Willie or Ricardo?
I was just going to add, the one big issue all of the time is transportation.
Yeah.
That's the big elephant in the room all of the time. One of the programs had a really good idea a while back. I think it was one of the AZAGC programs that actually laid on a couple of minibuses and brought everybody met at one place. Now it was convenient for the ones that didn't have transportation, and shipped into the job site. The foremans loved it. They had a full crew. They were able to do, well, I don't know if you could call it a safety meeting while you're traveling, but they covered a lot of their stuff on their ride. They saved a lot of money in gas because it was kind of expensive, and everybody was far better off because you had a full contingency on the job as well. So if companies need to get people, they're going to have to do a wee bit better job because transportation is getting very expensive, and that's one of the big barriers. And it's been like that forever, obviously, and because it's such a transient occupation. Being in the construction industry, you could be in Goodyear one day, and you could be way out in East Mesa the following week, and you may not have adequate transportation to get to and from there. So that's one thing that needs to be addressed somehow, some way. You know, I don't know how.
That's a great example. Ricardo?
And I agree with you guys.
Tell you what, we work together all the time. All right, so somebody want to shut down, I'm good. I can speak loud enough. Everybody can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, again, we talk about our labor shortages and stuff, and where do we find this labor? I've had numerous conversations with different companies, different people. You know, the big thing that comes up is the immigration issue. How do we work around the immigration issue? Well, one thing is, and I tell them point blank, Puerto Rico and Guam, they're automatic US citizens. You don't have any of the immigration issues that you have to go through. At the same time, if you're willing to go out and recruit and move them here to work for you, then by all means. The other things that I have major issues with too is, you know, our visas, H-2B visas. They're 55,000 a year. That's all that the US hands out. Less than 1,000 come to Arizona, and that's designed for agriculture and housekeeping. Well, one of the things I addressed legislature last year when I went to DC was, what about the opportunity of doing H-2B visas for construction? Because 9 months out of the year is our busiest months, from September to the end of May. They're here, they go home for 3 months, they come back, and on a visa, and we know where they're at and how to access them and everything else. So there's different things that are out there. You know, the whole thing is how we want to work with it and stuff, but still locally, you know, we have resources, good resources, that are out there to help companies and help, you know, parents if they want some advice or something about, you know, coming out. For one, I go to the CTE conference, okay? And I go to the Arizona School Counselors Association's conference every year. Do I have jobs? No. Do I have contractors? Yes. But the ability, it affords me, is to meet some of these teachers and these counselors and get invited to their career days. And so I go out and talk to the students, because we have to reach them young. We have to let them know that here's an opportunity. We encourage education, but here's an opportunity in case that doesn't work out for you. So here's the fallback. The other thing is at what level do you reach them? I know that at Madison Elementary, right? They have a thing called Trade Up, and they're 7th and 8th graders. And it's a program designed to bring professionals in the construction industry to come and talk to these students and work with them. So these kids, when I went to that one, they were doing circuit boards, electric circuit boards, and making them work. They had experience in roofing, experience in plumbing, and experience in masonry. These were, you know, professionals in our industry and brought that skill to those schools to teach these kids. The opportunity is, we have to reach them young. I used to mentor 7th and 8th graders that wanted to get into engineering, and they're doing phenomenally well now. Okay, but the whole thing is, this, the younger we reach them, the more we can educate them, and then they're off to make a better decision on what they want to do with their life.
All right, well, thank you guys so much. I'm gonna ask you guys one more question, and then if we have time, we'll open it up for some Q&A, but I'll let them tell me if we have time. But one more question, kind of to sum up, what's the main message that you want our stakeholders here to understand, policymakers, if they can relay the message to policymakers later? One good main message that you want to leave here today about this issue. Are there any good resources that people can turn to learn more? And what's one way they can make a big substantial difference?
I think I already made that mention about the
Yes.
So, something for them to take back and look at, because there's an opportunity to open up some doors and bring in skilled labor from other nations and stuff. But the thing is, the resources, this is it. You know, AGC, ASA, ABA, you know, the state, the county, the AMCA, we're all resources. And if we don't have that information to help you, we know where to go to get you that information.
I'm gonna go next. So if we have any legislators in here, thank you for supporting CTE and the CTEDs across the state. You know, we couldn't do it without the support of the members. Thank you so much. And of course, all the taxpayers who provide those funds for CTE.
Yeah, double thank you.
So the message is CTE is a premier educational system. It teaches the students, you know, knowledge and skills, academics, professional skills. They get work-based learning in there. So one of the asks is, can you provide internships for these high school students? You know, think about that as you put together your whole plan for getting to CTE. We desperately want your help, we need your help, and our resources are on the ADE CTE website, but I have a program specialist hiding in the back. He's your go-to, Joe Greco, and I know half of you in here already have met Joe. He'll connect you with the teachers in the classroom, but I wanted to expand a little bit more briefly on CTE. It's not just construction, it's support services, business management, business operation, nursing services. Who doesn't in construction need a nurse once in a while? We provide all these CTE programs at the high school level, and it provides those students with opportunities of whatever career path they want to take after high school.
This, buckle up. I just want to pass, so this is for policymakers and legislative people out there. You have a registered apprenticeship program in Arizona. You've had a registered apprenticeship program in Arizona since Governor Sidney Osborne signed the House Bill 240 on March 24th, 1941. It became law June 16, 1941. That's how long we've had a formal apprenticeship program. It's disturbing how many of those legislative people don't understand we have a registered apprenticeship program. Now, I say that because Governor Ducey appointed a bipartisan committee for foreign travel, and they went last year, headed up by, I shouldn't mention his name, but Mr. Bowers was Speaker of the House. He led the contingency, right? They went to Italy, Austria, and Switzerland. And they found out that Switzerland has a wonderful apprenticeship program, and they said, we should go back and do this in Arizona. You know, and to me, that's kind of bewildering that you need to know we have a really quality program, that this program you backed up wonderfully well, and this is the prelude to going into apprenticeships. We're the hub between CTE and college and university. We give people the recognition because our governor signs our completion certificates, and so does the Secretary of State. It's a very heavily endorsed document. It's recognized in all 50 states and 4 territories. That's what we bring to the table. Support registered apprenticeship, grow registered apprenticeship. Arizona is like 7-point-something million people in right now. We were working on a consensus, our census data of 4.5 million a while back, but now 7-point-something million. Based on what other states have, we should have about 25,000 apprentices here, and we only got 5,500, 5.7,000. That's ridiculous. We need to do a better job, and they're all here in Maricopa County. nearly all of them are here. We've got some programs scattered around in Pima and other parts of the state. But I need you to understand that registered apprenticeship is there and it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you anything. All of these resources now that's why I said double thank you, because this is your taxpayers' dollars. We want to make your taxpayers' dollars work for you. So if you reach out to us, we can set up a program for you at no cost. We bring all of Arizona work activities to you and make available to you. We've got funding mechanisms to kick in for registered apprentices that qualify to help them with their tools, books, materials, tuition in the first year of their apprenticeship program. If you become a registered apprenticeship program, we can help you register on the eligible training providers list to get that funding for the people that need it. So all of these resources that you're thinking you're doing a good job by setting up a program that's not registered with the state. Real quickly, back when David was talking about 2008, we had that huge downturn in the economy. It was worldwide, there was not much you could do about it, but I talked about that document that we provide from the state, the certificate of completion, it's recognized all over the country. If you have an apprentice and they're working away and they graduate, and all of a sudden you had a downturn in your part of the world, you don't get any contracts. You have fallen in love with that person because you hired them for some reason. You've nurtured them through that apprenticeship program. You've got them to where they need to be and you can't afford to keep them. What's the one thing you would like for that person to do to feed their family? You would like for them to get a good job somewhere. Giving them that credential enables them to go and start off at top dollar. All of our apprenticeship programs when they graduate are starting at the top 70% earners in the country. Period. That's a full stop.
That's a perfect place to full stop. So I don't know if we have time for one or two, maybe one question. If there's a question out there that you're just burning to ask right now, now's the time. But if not, I want you guys to join me in thanking our panelists, Mr. Carlo, Mr. Higgins, thank you together. I'll just close by saying, as a former one of those legislative people, I know that they need to be reminded how important this is, and that this problem's only compound if we don't start addressing and investing in this issue now. So talk to your legislative people, let them know that this stuff is important, that they need to support these programs and support this industry. And so thank you all so much for being here. I want to thank all of our participants that are up here. They've been flashing up here on the screen. So if that's one of you, thank you so much. And if it's one of your people you're sitting next to, thank them for me as well. We're gonna go across to suites E and F, right? Suites E and F, we'll enjoy the game, we'll have some lunch, we'll keep talking with each other. But thank you guys so much for being out here. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you next year.
All right, please give a big round of applause to Martín, Jesse, and Cindy and the team for putting this together. Awesome. Thanks for being here.